And on today's podcast, I'm delighted to welcome Matthew Hill. How are you today, Matthew?
Couldn't be better. Couldn't be better. Heat wave on the way.
Wonderful. So let's get this started. Where are you right now on planet Earth?
I am from London, England, the southwest, in a strange little borough called Tooting. Tooting is originally a French hamlet in the southwest of London. So you've got Balham, Clapham, the Clapham omnibus just up the road. People might know that. Or deeply South Chelsea, if you're a snob or an estate agent. And it's a mixed community, which I'm happy to be part of. We Pilates, we spin, and we barbecue. What more could you want?
Wonderful. I can sense the sarcasm in your voice. Generally, have you always lived there? Have you, Matthew?
I've lived in Balham. I was born in Canterbury, and I lived in the Czech Republic for 5.5 years, some of the best years of my life.
Okay, we're going to into that later on. So, okay, if we're going to go back now, so in terms of the best 5.5 years of your life, so let's start from the beginning, Matthew. Let's start. Where did it all begin? So, your background, your hobbies, your interests. Let the listeners know.
Very good, very good, very good. What is the deal? My first job was cold calling and selling ad space. And then I got into recruitment. And the Czech thing came about because I was at the headquarters and the field were getting all the resources. So I had three country choices when I asked the boss to move me: India, Lebanon, and the Czech Republic. I went for the softest, easiest, and quickest, which was the Czech Republic. I met Philip, the Queen of England, Václav Havel, all the prime ministers, lots of different people. We had a fantastic time. I would say it made me. Then I thought I knew Czech culture. That was my first mistake, and was doing some consultancy on that. And that became intercultural consultancy. And then one of the people who used me as an associate for intercultural training said, why don't we go and use all your leadership skills, which you built up in the Czech Republic, and make an offering out of that? So these seminars and trainings and coachings on all the leadership material came from that. So that's anything and everything. The most obscure being speed reading. I have got people from councils to read at 450 words a minute. That is exceptional. Memory enhancement, and I must say it is a joke which is true. When I teach that, guess what happens? My memory gets a little bit better. And then the latest thing is a bit all this anti-polarity, bringing back debate and discussion to slightly polarized crowds, which I'm enjoying at the moment. I don't see you in that category, mate, but you never know.
Not yet. After this podcast, maybe. So, tell me this,
Okay.
Matthew. In terms, you said a big mistake there. What was the big mistake?
Mistake in assuming that you know a people. I loved the Czech. So, in contrast, you had Poland, Czech, and Hungary, and I was sort of flitting about the three. And I'm going to stereotype here. I'm sorry, guys. This was years ago, so it's all changed. But they never mingled. You never found a Hungarian in Poland and all that sort of stuff. The Hungarians were emotional but didn't fully want to commit. The Polish people were the most robust and have been the most successful. I think they had the biggest sense of self. And then the Czech people, I loved it because it sounded negative. This is a big breakthrough for all leaders, really. When you hear something which is no, can't, problem, done it before, didn't work. And then the breakthrough was what they were really saying is, are you for real? Or are you lying like had 40 years of Soviet nonsense? Are you lying? Are you telling the truth? That's really what they were saying. So all this negative language was really truth testing. And so that was fun. So I go back whenever I can. I've got some long-lasting friendships in the three countries, but mostly in the Czech Republic. And I go back whenever I can. I went back a year before last, and we ended up having 550 people in the basement of the whole of the Hilton, which had been taken over by the client, and we had them negotiating with real money. That is difficult to organize, but we managed it.
Well done. So, in terms of culture, okay, we're going to get a little bit deep now before we move on to the fun part again, and then the deep part, and the fun part, and the deep part. So, in terms of culture, how do you define culture? I mean, what is your understanding of culture? Because the way I see it, I've lived abroad as well for a number of years, and the when I was brought up, I was told, the Irish, we're the best. We're the better than anybody else. We're the best. And then you go to other countries and they go, oh, we're the best. And our culture's the best. So what was your definition of culture? And then when you then experience these other cultures, how did you manage that?
Very good, very good, very good. Actually, well, long story. I'm doing an Irish briefing in a couple of weeks' time, so we could have an offshore conversation about that. The current message in Britain is British people are the worst, and the worst. So we're having a bit of revision on that, all very anti-colonialist and the rest of it. The Czechs did not think they were the best. They were only the best at surviving. Václav Havel once said they had the tallest dwarves. They made the best of what they had.
Right.
So it's what we do round here. It's the rules of engagement. It is collective, not solo. It is individuals sublimating their individuality in order to live and prosper in a group, a community, a department, a company, a tribe, a football team, whatever it is. So it's unconscious and conscious. It comes from your mother, father, brother, sister, boss, priest, the television, the literature, and your height, beauty, wealth, health, birth order, youngest, oldest, religion, all sorts of things. It all piles in with a sort of narrative, a story, and what we call a set of values. And if I know your set of values, this is a leadership tip. If I know your set of values, then I can communicate effectively with you. And so that leads us to an exercise, which I like to do, listening for values, where people go, what seems to be important for you is integrity or something. And then that's an amazing access into people's reality. And then you can be effective putting a message out or influencing them.
What would you then say, Matthew, if you were to go back in time and you were to tap your younger self on the shoulder before you went to the Czech Republic? What would you suggest to Matthew then? Of how to embrace the culture and kind of engage and interact.
Oh, very good. Okay, well, there's two things. I teach sort of cultural change. I've got a big program coming up for a huge new investor in the UK coming up. And I say, do all these things. I would say, and this is, contrary, if it's your first time, don't even think about it. Make all the mistakes. If you knew what could go wrong, you wouldn't enter that big room in the embassy and pick up a beer and go and talk to somebody because you go, oh, it's too risky. I think ignorance is bliss on your only your first relocation assignment, and just do everything. And you'll be so naive and wide-eyed that people will feel sorry for you, and it'll be a great success. Only in your second relocation, or maybe when you repatriate, do you need some support, because repatriates are a pain. No one really wants them. They're an inconvenience. And if you do the second time and it's somewhere hotter or more expensive or bigger or more difficult, then you're going to be terrified by, and you're not going to make as much effort. You're not going to be as naive and open-minded to it. So there you do need to survive. What would I say to myself? I think I did a pretty good job. I faked it until I knew it. I said yes a lot. I met some incredible people. I tried desperately to listen and understand them, and it worked out beautifully well. And this sounds like an ego trip, but it's not. I was a bigger fish in a smaller pond. I had more experience than most people there. That was just my makeup. I'm not showing off by that at all. Although, mate, coming back to being just another schmo on the underground, that is a come down. That is a come down from being a bit of a star to being move along, please. You need to move to the right of the escalator. Is like, oh my word, disappear,
Yeah.
disappear.
And Matthew, did you have any stereotypes? So any listeners there, because obviously we see things on TV and the media, and if we see a certain, an individual in a certain country, we automatically maybe assume that that's how they live, that's how they eat, that's how they act. Even simple things like body language, hand signals, and the whole lot. I mean, how did you deal with that?
Very good, very okay. So we in our teachings we say a stereotype, a positive and functional stereotype. We'll shift that over to called the generalization hypothesis. So you go to Japan, are they going to be nice to you? Yeah, that's a working hypothesis which will work out. One of the guys I used to work with, he started up an office in Japan. His wife was there and got lost in the middle of Tokyo. Someone shut their shop. Not a word of English or Japanese was combined between the two of them. They shut their shop for half an hour, and he walked this woman back to her hotel. The stereotype worked. Negative stereotypes are not very useful, but you can protect yourself, violent areas or doing this. But I quite like the sort of contrast you get. What does a Russian "niet" mean? Niet. Sounds very aggressive, very,
It does actually, yeah.
it can mean not now, mate, come back in 5 minutes. What does a French "no" mean? You ask something, are you excited? I mean, I often do this thing. I do a lot of work in Paris. I'm a roast beef, not the most popular person in Paris. I'll go up and say, are you excited? I'm going to train you in a minute. And they'll always say the same thing. No. What they really mean is, are you ready for the relief? Convince me,
Yeah.
which is fine. No, it sounds horrible, but convince me sounds, yeah, sure. Of course I'll do that. Of course I'll do that. And then you would have the Indian yes, which might well mean no. Why are they not saying no? Because they're being respectful. What? They're lying to you out of respect? No, they're saving your face and their face by not being aggressive or disappointing in public. So the idea of punishing in public is a no-no. It's a faux pas. And so once you know some of these codes, one, you can help a lot of people, and two, you can be much more successful yourself.
You mentioned there saving face. I find that a very interesting term. I've heard it many times, but for any listener there that is looking, when they do ask an individual, depending on the culture, say they're in a different country, and as you mentioned there, that they're saving face for you and they're saving face for them. But how then do you avoid the frustration of trying to get sincerity from the other person?
Truth
Because
testing.
that's
Yes.
it. Yeah. How do you deal with that?
Okay, well then you go from intercultural loveliness to management. What is the first thing we're going to do? So it's milestones and stepping stones and the rest of it. What is success? What is the first action you'd like me to take? Once you get into action and outcomes, inputs and outputs, then it's difficult to maintain the nonsense. You might like to, and I wouldn't do that. And then you have to read between the lines. So then we move on to indirect communication. So direct people, as you've sort of triggered on that one, direct people seem aggressive. Indirect people seem wishy-washy, wet, and lesser. But the idea is, in a crisis, we want our fireman or pilot to shout orders.
Yes.
In the long term, we want indirect people to focus on our delicate and overly sensitive ears and not to destroy relationships. So both sides of the divide are very, very useful, but in different ways. And as a leader, or you or me, we're trying to sort of knit and weave all of these people together to get the best out of everybody.
So we're all playing pretend. That's what you're trying to say, Matthew.
No, okay, one more time. Our mother, father, brother, sister have given us values
Yeah.
which predict what we're going to do. They are the algorithm, the word of the moment, algorithm, and then we play with that. So if I go to an indirect people, I mean, what I do on a webinar with my Indians will say, if I give you my bank details, will you pay me $10 at the end? And it's Well, I'd give that some sincere consideration. They're actually saying no. So you can force it, or you can expose it, or do whatever. Once you see someone's code, it's not about you, the sender. It's really about the audience. So if I communicate in the audience value-based language, I will be successful. I've just given you the whole secret of presenting. It's not about you. It's about the audience. If it doesn't land, you're wasting your time.
The body language side of it as well. I mean,
Yeah.
as we say, hands can be flailing. I know as an Irishman, I've had, I think Reese about 6 months ago, I was just chatting to a gentleman from Africa, and I was kind of like, yeah, doing a lot of this hand stuff, like but just being animated, and then he thought I was being quite kind of rude and aggressive. And he actually, yeah, in fairness to him, he actually said it to me. He says, "Oh, stop pointing at me and stop showing your thumb at me and stop doing this." So, so How do you manage that as well, especially if you are like the Brits and the Irish? We are quite animated with our hands and our body language.
No, no, very good, very good. No, I do a lot of presentation stuff. I remember yeah, I got taught by a judge in a presentation school of hard knocks. Never move your body. I quite like it. I competed once. I was in one stage, and Bob Geldof was in the other, and he actually is more animated than I am. But percentage-wise, my room was fuller. Just to make a note of that. It as
All
long
this
as
name
it's
dropping today. All this name
lot of name
dropping.
drop, lot of that. And
Jeez, you're going to get me
Taylor
done for
Swift.
copywriting, are all these
Taylor
name
Swift said I
dropping.
did. Taylor Swift said I did too much of that, but what does she know? Um, as long as you
You are not
align,
getting back together with Taylor Swift. You know that, don't you?
there we go. That injunction is final. Is
It
fine.
is, yeah.
So the idea, if you can do word selection, tone and emphasis, face and body, and emphasize the syllables, then you've got what we call aligned communication. So that is okay. Having said that, however you move your hand, it will offend somebody somewhere in the world with your thumb, your fingers, your palm, your movements. It'll be disgusting somewhere. So, just beware. Just be aware of that. I mean, I did that. There was a Turkish thing. I won't do it now. There's a very simple thing that you do and I do all the time, and it's incredibly offensive in Turkey. And normally it's seen in traffic.
Yes,
And it's like,
okay. The
and
bird.
I did this to the head of a very large company. I thought, oh no, I know I'm doing it. This is not good. This is not good. You move on. You move on.
But if you have offended, so this is obviously reaching out to a
Okay.
listener that's moving abroad and has doing all the I'm aware even in Korea they have certain bow movements. There's I think the 90-degree bow, the 45, it's all this depending on importance, I suppose. So if you rock in there and you're kind of like, oh, here's Dave or Matthew, like, we know what's going on there, and you have offended, what would you suggest to anybody that, to kind of
Well,
cool
one,
the
I'd get in early.
situation?
With the bow, the Japanese, the Korean, the Chinese bow, you're never going to get it right. So I would do an inoculation. I went to Saudi, fairly tense situation. I was doing a replacement training, mixed gender with these characters who were very much covered up. So I gave it over to them. I have done some rudimentary research about your etiquette and culture. I am absolutely bound to get it wrong, so please correct me at an early stage. So that went down very well. If you've gone too far and you've inoculated, then you normally get away with it. And just react quickly. I feel I've done something wrong. Shall we talk about it? So, and again, an indirect culture. What's the worst thing I did? It was in Belfast with a Chinese woman. I should not be telling you this
In
story.
Belfast with a Chinese woman, let's hear this story. Go on.
Yes, I should not be telling this story. So we're in this group of lads, and this Chinese woman has over adapted by dressing like a boy with her haircut, no makeup, and a sweatshirt and the rest of it. And I made a stupid. It's a different atmosphere when it's all blokes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone just did this sort of pros, and then one by one, the coffee shop lunchtime. Oh, you shouldn't have done that, Matthew. And then what did I do? So I'd made a complete mess of it. I went up to our Chinese colleague and said, I didn't even have to start the conversation. Nope, it's okay. She did not want to go there
Right.
because if we'd gone and completed that, she would also lose face.
Face.
I've messed up, but she takes the hit as well. So we neutralized. Yeah. And so there's a lesson for me. Never go to Belfast. I mean, I learned a lot. I learned a lot.
It's only 2 hours from where I am. If
Yeah.
any listeners out there with your wonderful sense of humor, I mean, tell the listeners a little bit about your background in relation to that. You were a comedian before, isn't that correct?
No, no, let's not overdo it. It's a redo. So I was decades ago doing a weekly news muckabout thing. The Mock the Week was stole everything I knew. It was exhausting. So on Monday you'd have a blank sheet of paper, waiting for the news, then trying to say something funny about it. It was the worst possible approach to comedy. Then, fairly recently, my lovely missus, who happens to be German by passport,
By
saw a
passport,
mate,
you say, by passport.
not necessarily by culture.
All
Then
right.
we've worked very hard on young Susanna. So she saw a great mate of ours do it in Brighton and have a great success. So monkey see, monkey do. So she'd signed up in London, and that was great. Now I have to say the teaching wasn't. That tip top. So there was a massive fallout rate. 15 out of 20 dropped out. They said, who wants to get back in? 2 weeks to go, big show in a proper famous comedy club. And I thought, well, I haven't done it for decades. How difficult can it be? Shoved some material together about getting an appointment at the NHS and an intimate medical procedure. Got on stage, it went pretty well, and now we're doing a series of, I'm doing my grand tour of London, which is quite fun. So she goes on first and warms up the crowd with her sort of German impression of UK culture, which goes down very nicely, and then I come in with my NHS. Here we go, and it's all going fun. So. I suppose the nearest I come in my day job or getting, I mean, I did pick up a coaching client after my first gig. He said, I
Right.
want to be my voice coach. So I thought I was doing something right. But I do this within the training. I do some improv writing. So I give a very simple template, and then people write sort of 5 lines as impactful business communication. And then we riff on that, and sometimes that turns into something else or a role play or something else. And that's as sort of near as I get in my day job to comedy. But I must say, I'm really enjoying it. So my latest piece of work for comedy is New Men versus Real Men. So I go down to my local gym where they've just introduced matcha. So I've given them alternative. Matcha, pretty sweet and new. That's New Man. It's not macho. They've misunderstood me and are now calling it have a macho matcha. No, you've got it all wrong. It's all good fun. It's all good fun.
So for anybody out there, like, you can double job. So
Oh, yeah,
generally,
I do believe. Well, we call it the side hustle. If you want to
side
get
hustle.
ahead, side hustle away.
I mean, was this always, did you have this in the blood as growing up? I mean, was your folks, I know you mentioned, I can't mention your mother, but did
Well, we can
anybody,
mention my father.
sorry, your
My
father, I can mention your
father,
father, okay.
listen to this, therapist Dave. Listen to this. He'd take me to the church on Sunday evening. Don't know
Your
why.
father would or your mother?
My father
Your
would.
father would,
And
okay.
then he would say, he never mentioned it before, during, or after. He would get up and he would read a lesson really well. He wasn't nervous, beautiful voice, beautiful diction, took it very seriously, came on down and sat down. He never mentioned he was going to do it. He did it. He never mentioned it to me afterwards. I don't know why I never asked him about it, but I never did. And I guess there was this agent, this model, this example that I later followed. So I do a lot of keynote speaking. I do a lot of public speaking. I MC quite a lot for prize shows and other stuff and school fetes and lots of different stuff. So I guess he was the my unconscious inspiration to get on with that particular line of communication.
And in terms of when you were in school and all this type of stuff, were you always like the prankster? Or did this happen kind of as you
I
progressed through
was
life?
I was social secretary, which was quite funny, and we had a single gender school, so I was a necessary part of the mechanisms of life. I facilitated. Probably there's some children which should be called Matthew. But it's all good. It's all good.
So, okay, let's reverse this a little bit now. So this is probably not um okay, so if anybody listening to this podcast right now and you're listening to Matthew, okay, you see he's very fun, he's outgoing, he's chatty. So Matthew, how do you manage Matthew?
How do I manage me?
So generally, if you were somebody on the opposite side of
Oh,
the
I see.
spectrum,
Oh, I see.
so
With
they
great difficulty.
well,
With
how
great
how would you?
difficulty.
Because you get individuals, you mentioned yourself, there's different perceptions, there's different vibes, people have different values, different cultures. And, Matthew goes into the room, or even Dave goes into the room, and you have the quiet individual in the corner, and they think, God, they're so annoying. But how do you get them on side if you want to manage and be a leader?
Very okay. Well, how to manage me?
Yes. How would you
What
manage
my
Matthew?
my preferences would just be for clarity and space.
Okay.
This is the now, this is the purpose, this is the output, this is good, this is bad. How are you going to do it? Do you need some support? So servant leadership and clarity. That's a trust builder. Trust is ability, benevolence, and integrity. Ability, I want the boss to be better than me. That's quite a demand, but there we are. And that might need some demonstration, expertise, knowledge, examples. Benevolence, which is, I want something good for you. So there's a benevolence triangle, the boss, the employee, the client, the customer. We need a lot of benevolence to go around. It has to be demonstrated. That's absent in some organizations which I am parachuted into. And then finally, integrity. We all have to keep our word and tell the truth much, much, much more than we lie. So there we are. So what I do when I'm managing people, it's to shut up and listen for values. Once you know someone, what's important for someone, so we could call them principles, and you can work them out. Truth, punctuality, directness, honesty, quality, examples, whatever it's going to be. And then you just change your communication to that language, that dialect, that jargon, and the chances are you'll be the best leader they've ever had. Quite funny, quick one. I also work with naughty boys. I used to work with this charity where there was these wonderful kids who were the whole lot, everyone was there, leaving care and entering the world of employment. So these guys had such a disadvantage in life, and these young white boys were just Duracell bunnies. You couldn't get them to sit still or to focus or whatever. But I did quite enjoy it. I stopped my agenda and really tried to almost rap and riff with them to try and almost just pick up their language. And something happened. Something happened. It was quite interesting. So to me, the teacher is the neutral. You're the facilitator of educational exchange and experience, and you go with what you get. So, I walk into the room and see what I find, much as we're doing now. It's all good.
And why is it, Matthew, do you think, in your own opinion, that people find it very difficult to let go as leaders? They want to have that
Yeah.
kind of micromanaging mentality,
Here we go.
dictatorship mentality. And
Here
you
we
said
go.
that there are many times in terms of, listen, values,
Okay.
be open. Why is that? Is there
Well,
something
no,
going
here
on
we go.
inside?
I've got Hill's theory of leadership constipation. The joke is, it's a democracy in January. Come in when you like, leave when you like. It's all great. All I need is the results, guys. That's a lie. And then about July, the dictatorship forms. Make another call.
Yeah.
Close that deal. If you don't, I'm going to beat you to death. So you have all of that. So you have this fake laxness, which is totally unrealistic. Probably the goals are wrong, but people also they're paid 300,000 and they feel it's their job. They've been over promoted. They want to be doing it themselves. They know how to do it or they don't know how to do it. One of those. You're not doing it as well as they could do it. Give it to me. Be quick. I did it myself. They don't really understand the idea of leverage, that they can't spread the love to 5 or 50 or 500 people. They've got to put some structures in place to get their skills and experience to cascade down. By the way, there is a method for that, which is the opinion leader, where you don't manage 500 people. You pick the people who have a value match, we're saying it again, a value match with you, and you spot them, test them, recruit them, load them up with your gold, silver, and bronze outcomes, and then they translate and broadcast locally to their micro tribe, and everything works. And then you can flip it the other way around. Suddenly you have a feedback mechanism where you find out what's happening on the shop floor. Because often these guys are stressed out because they're too distant from the action.
So the power distance is generally too great in today's corporations, is it, or organizations?
Totally, totally, totally. And then you go global, and then you go hybrid, and all the rest of it. I mean, there's a lot going on, which is it's isolation is the big disease at the moment.
Do you think, in your own background, Matthew, and experience, that the reason these systems are put into place is that, the main directors or executives, they just want to be dealing with the business side of things. They don't want to be dealing with
Yeah,
any of this other
yeah, yeah.
nonsense. And then they throw all these other things into the pot. Oh yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to promote this, it's this day, that day, this person's day. Is this generally a way of distraction from, we're doing our best for you, but is that generally the feeling?
Well, very, very. Yeah, I know. Well, people. Oh no, here we go. People have moved. People are an asset, a positive, but they're treated like a liability. Your main assets, although in a hybrid world this is not the case, your main assets leave in the lift at 6 p.m. but we don't treat it like that. So to me, it is a very human system of why don't we try to get 130% out of the whole individual, as opposed to cramming them in what you neurotically think you need. So that's an idea. And there's probably, yes, some product people, some expansion and growth people, or some people. We really, as a leader, as a manager, we have to have 3 feet in one in each of those camps, and it is fairly difficult. So my mind is leaders don't operate in isolation. They need to understand who they've got, maybe have a mastermind group for themselves, maybe of peers. There's quite a few lot of mastermind groups where you can, I don't know finance, I don't know AI, I don't know triaging crisis, and you can find. Here's my challenge to everyone: network like a crazy person and find the people where you are missing a link, where you are missing a skill, and then ask them, get a relationship, contribute to some sort of network where you can help them and they can help you. So you just feel better. And also time management, our most precious resources, time. You need to win back some time, a sense of control for yourself to just calm it down and not be an idiot or a bully. And ironically, delegation will give you back some control. The opposite is true.
In relation to delegation, so you're giving out the little nuggets and go, oh, you do this, you do that, and you give them a bit of praise, and those you have praised all of a sudden think they're amazing. They think their perception is the boss thinks I'm amazing. So how do you manage that side where, the heads start getting bigger, they think they're actually better at the job than what they are, but you have the manager who's kind of saying, look, good job there, Matthew, well done, excellent, and all of a sudden Matthew thinks, wow, the boss thinks I'm good, I'm going for his job next or her job. How do you manage that
Well,
side?
no, well, there's two different parts there. And a fragile, egoed, over-optimistic type is gonna, with or without my help, is gonna crash and fall over on their ass sooner or later. Going for my job, I remember working for GE years ago. That was actively encouraged. So everything was project, and the more swiftly you could hand over and delegate your job, literally your level and job, to somebody else, that was a massive tick in the box, and then you got the choice of the next project. So if you have ambition and you're fairly centered and emotionally mature in control, that is a positive. I want your job. Great. Can you do it? What are you missing? How can I help you?
Right.
And then, you also need not to be constrained yourself, or that's a suicide mission. But that can be pretty powerful. So a positive corporate culture is one which allows upward flow, lots of development, and then downward, it is a cascading delegation of empowerment and skill and knowledge. Because there are, what's your purpose? There's a corporate purpose: to make money, to enrich our stakeholders. When that is separated from the good for the employees, then you get a critical break. My son has just made a move from an organization which was stakeholders, yes, um, workers go whistle, move to a more ethical organization. We need to be, product has to be the best, customers come first, employees are the greatest asset, and the stakeholders, thanks for the cash, but you're not in charge. And it's the best ideas, the best product, and nothing lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever. We've got this. Listen to these two things. So you've got contentment, which is what worked today will work tomorrow. Great, go for it. There's delusion. What worked yesterday will still work tomorrow. Bloody do it. No, delusion needs to be challenged. Delusion needs to be challenged. So that's the Hill's philosophy.
The Say for example, right, you're kind of doing okay in the company, the organization, and you're kind of progressing up the echelons or the ladder,
Yeah,
as we say.
yeah.
Um, how do you not fall into the trap to think that you're more important than what you think you are by continuing to focus on the job and improving training experience?
I
but
love,
sometimes
Dave, that you think that people just float through on their ego and never get challenged.
I know.
You'll find in back in reality town, we are challenged on a daily basis. To my mind, what is the executive life these days? It is solving 500 problems a year, a month, or if you're very unlucky, in a week.
Yeah.
And you won't be able to solve them all. You certainly won't be able to do it on your own. You need a community. It takes a village to raise a child, all that sort of stuff. And so I find reality will slap you in the face before your ego will get you into danger.
I find it's funny because I will have, say, colleagues or friends that I've worked with and I've kind of progressed, and then all of a sudden, but I have so much experience and they don't want me anymore, and I've applied for other jobs and they don't want me either. I mean,
Okay.
how can they cope with that mechanism as well, or that type of situation?
Okay, well, you get me onto my pet subject now, which is network like a crazy person and start today. Okay, biggest crime I committed was not taking the 4,000 contacts I'd made in the Czech Republic with me.
All right.
Two of those are top 100 company peoples now. I'm in touch with one, I'm not in touch with the other. Network like a crazy person. Understand your peer group. Understand your peer group. And then here's another little trick. After you're 40, get the half generation below, because when all your mates are starting to retire, the smug ones will retire at 50. You've got the next generation below, and you can get out with dignity. Network like a mad person. The person in this street has just got a job. They're a fantastic person, but it's pretty cramped up the top of the pyramid. They did not go in through the front door because there's 10,000 competitors for every electronically signed job. They went in through the side door, and that's the way to do it. So network like a crazy person now. Well, maybe after the end of this podcast.
So how then would you network like a crazy person in terms of, are you talking about like I got onto LinkedIn right now once this podcast is
I like a
finished?
bit of LinkedIn.
You like building, that's good. And then as I call it, LinkedIn's. So generally as you go on and you kind of go, okay, who's that? I'm going to send that person a message and who's this? I mean, that's not just borderline
Well, okay,
stalking, is it?
cold linking is not so good. When you go into a room, where if it's a conference, it's a wine thing, it's a businessy thing, listen to this brilliant sentence. It's the most complicated sentence not. Hello, you here for the networking? When they say yes, here's my PIN number. What's yours? Here's my blood type. I'm particularly interested in leadership training. What are you interested? Oh, right, I'm a pediatrician. All right, here we go. And then my missus is best at this. So they are not for you. And then you work the room. Do not stay with the friendly. Do not stay with the loser. Do not get drunk on the cheap wine. Keep on moving. Keep on. My missus will find the pediatrician, and then she'll find that I've got myself into a cul-de-sac. Who does a pediatrician need? A parent. I don't know, whatever. They find a parent with a sick child. This is a ridiculous example. She will bring B over to C and go, hello, C with the sick child. This is a pediatrician. And the magic happens. When you pass it forward, the networking, something will happen. What we're getting is goodwill, reciprocity. It's a Cialdini influencing trick. It's the law of reciprocity. And then people will refer to you. I've had the most extraordinary referrals from LinkedIn.
So when does it not become, as my kids would say, cringe? So when you are doing your
Oh,
network,
there's plenty of cringe. There's plenty of
I mean,
cringe.
we're
There's
not doing
plenty of cringe.
massages, we're not doing anything like that. Oh, hey, how you doing? This is Dave here. This is Matthew. No, it's just
Oh,
generally.
no, no, listen first. Listen first. If they're a loser, go, I'm sorry, I've got an awfully weak bladder.
Okay.
If they are a winner, it's much more difficult to do this.
Right.
You are the best person I've met this evening. Space. Have we got contacts? Okay, let's go work the room. Ha ha ha. Bang. So the toughest thing is to leave a win, or someone who's a bucket full of charisma. Stop. That's a false flag. Do not do it. Keep on going. And so when I go to a dinner party, it sounds mechanical. I've got a barbecue coming up on Saturday. I will have 5 quality conversations.
Still waiting for my invitation. Oh, sorry, go on
There
ahead.
we go. No, no, feel free. Feel free. Get the
I thought we were networking. Sorry, go on.
yeah, get the Aer Lingus over. I'll put you on the couch. I'll put you on the
Yeah,
couch
okay.
Friday night. It's all good. And anyone else who's listening,
Oh.
see my couch dimensions, the details below.
Okay.
Um, qualify in, you qualify out. Someone's got to have some sort of use. They might have a budget. They might have, got some money to pay you for something. They might have authority. They can sign. They can make a decision. They might have a need. By the way, this could be for you. It could be useful for someone you know. So the real circuitry is passing on people to other people, which is another Cialdini, this idea of social proof. I know just the person for you. I was walking down the street, someone is plastering, rendering their wall. And this guy said to me, he's really good. Do you want him? Do you want him? And I thought it was lovely. The plasterer felt good, the referrer felt good, and I felt I was being looked after. I didn't actually need any rendering, and it's all good. So we have this concept. So just keep on going, pass it forward, pay it forward, keep on moving. Get on a podcast, get on a webinar, get people flowing. Anyone can have a conversation with me. We'll maybe talk about that later. And that we make a connection. Actually, another quick story.
Go ahead.
I'm doing this merger in this room in West London 12 years before. And it's an American takeover of a British company. The Brits are not happy and the Americans are fairly aggressive. They've had their raw cow for breakfast. And it's a tough gig. And I managed to sort of do an intercultural bridging exercise. This one guy's in the back of the room and he's in finance. And I think we connect somehow. And then I write something on LinkedIn and he makes a comment. I don't hear from him for 12 years. He then calls me up and said, Matthew, there's an organization in Ethiopia that wants to go full African. Can you come over for 2 weeks? All business class, first class, best hotel in Ethiopia, lots of cash, bloody, bloody, blah. Can you give your directors a sort of 2-week masterclass, a sort of MBA? Yeah, sure. That is networking. That is networking. That is networking. So demonstration of what you know, who you are. It's called engagement. They don't know you. How do you get them to know a little bit about you, like you, and of course, trust you? So it's demonstration of ability, benevolence, and integrity. It's some sort of example, and then gets them into a database. And then you service that database. The obvious thing is a newsletter, blogs, an occasional call. When you call, the anti-cringe is not, guess what I've done? Listen, but I tell you this, I wrote my little comedy thing, which I've just told you, that story. I wrote that as what I call a postcard. It was an email, but it's a WhatsApp or a Facebook direct message. I've never had the emotional depth of response from that. These people I hadn't spoken to for 20 years. We always knew you could do it, Matthew. We must have a call. So if you've got a thing which is distinct and fairly courageous, standing up on stage is not for everyone. That most people would rather go to the dentist without an anaesthetic.
I wouldn't, no.
Now,
I was there last week, Matthew. No, Jesus, it was
there
like
you go. Well,
Freddy Krueger. Sorry.
You're doing this now. You're doing this now. Marathon Man. Is it safe? Is it safe? That's a reference. If you haven't seen it, look up Marathon Man this weekend. Great film. Great film. And it's about, and then servicing the relationship. Going in and saying, what's my thing, by the way? At an event, I'll say, are you excited? I'll say, you here for the networking. What are you aiming to? What's the best that could happen tonight? That's quite nice. What's the best that could happen tonight? And they'd say, you stop talking to me. And then and I prefer a hard no within 43 seconds. And then I've got the rest of my life. For every frog that turns into a prince, many will remain frogs.
Right.
And so, that's life. That's life.
You and I excluded. Yeah, you and I excluded.
You've got to swing and miss before you swing and connect and hit one into the stands.
But don't worry, Matthew, I'll have you on in 12 years. I'll remember this podcast. In terms of what do you think, before we move on to the business side of things, what do you think is, when you do your leadership chats, so you go to these organizations, is the biggest issues at the moment within organizations? Why are they having you coming along?
That's very good. Normally it's change. I don't get a preemptive call. I wish I did. There's one organization right now who are delightful, delightful, delightful in the middle of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And they've got some new leaders and they're saying, let's do a lovely new leader intro so these guys know what they're doing. That is so rare. Normally it's emergency. Something's not working. So it's a response to change and some negative aspect. So it is a reaction, and I come in and I'm mending it. So that is cultural change, that's ownership change, that's a client disaster, a product disaster. What have I had? Funny one in Bratislava, which was a neutral country, two country teams from whatever it was. It was two, I won't even mention them, two different countries met there. And we made the mistake of calling this thing something like conflict reversal. Oh, it's conflict, is it? No eye contact, no handshakes. And it was a 3-day course, which is amazing. So by the end, at the beginning, they were just dreadful. First evening, I made this huge mistake. I thought, let's get everyone lashed up on the lagers. It's all going to be good. Slovakia, cheapest chips. We went into this very long bar. What happened? Blue team were at the back, red team were at the front. Total failure. By the end, we got down to what are the issues. And it's by the time you explain the values difference, the cultural difference, what communication is, what negotiation is, and the rest of it, the actual real issues are tiny, and you have the tools to deal with them. So it's, the untreated disease gets worse. But
Right.
when you grab it, when you kill the monster whilst it is still small and young, that's what we got. And by the end, we did a 4-table lunch, and the blues and the reds were mixing nicely. And at the very end, it was hugs, it was eye contact, it was handshakes, it was, I'm going to come and see you soon, bloody, bloody, blah. It was a beautiful thing. So tragically, I'm brought in too late. I'm brought in as a reaction to an escalation, which is fine because, you earn your money and you make it better. But what would be much better would be a management development program where you anticipate and you make people age 25 to 35 ultra capable. They stay and everyone wins together. If you look at what's it called, the good to great, if you maintain talent within your organization, you are going to do so much better in that critical J curve takeoff, blasting growth phase than if everyone's new going, how does it work around here then? And that doesn't work. So anticipation and investment in human capital, a Ponzi phrase, which is how to lead, manage, present, argue, debate, dialogue, decide, and feedback with courage.
Do you think it's getting better since you've been starting this, or are you having to put out more
I'll
fire?
tell you who I love. It's your 20, 30 somethings. They have been exposed to compare with you, or if you're as old as I am, I had no exposure to anything when I was that age.
Right.
They have exposure to so much. I think a lot of these kids are fairly captured by some ideology which isn't helping them, but they think it is. But they've been exposed to so much. What I love with a 27-year-old, you can just talk about just about anything. Now, they might be captured or they might not be, but you can have an intelligent conversation. So I would say the up and coming executives are, and I'm generalizing, obviously, of a fabulous caliber with tons of potential, but they could do with less nonsense about the 27 nonsense agenda points we've got at the moment, which are not getting solved.
Yeah.
And learning, taking that next step. They're ready for supervision, management, directorial positions, leadership positions, but they've really got to invest in themselves and understand how to do it. How to do it. I'm here to help them. So,
So let's talk
choose
about your here to help them, Matthew Hill. So generally, how do you help? So how does the whole process work? So first of all, how does somebody get in touch or an organization get in touch with you?
keep it simple. Presentation hyphen skills.uk. Presentation singular hyphen skills plural .uk. There's missing the other C word, so it's common. Ping us and let's have a conversation. Even if you don't want to hire me, happy to have. If you've got a real leadership or presentation need, happy with anybody to have a 15-minute conversation and we can have a chat. If you want to go further, I've got a whole raft of speed reading, memory enhancement, influencing, assertiveness, presentation, pitching, selling, bloody, bloody, blah courses, which we chuck out by the half day, which are so much fun. When you are laughing, you are learning. That's the idea. So it's sweaty, it's experiential, and it's active. So reach out, get in touch. Happy to do something for you, point you in the right direction to somebody else who might be better suited to you, or just deal with the fire you are stamping on right now.
And is this a global thing? I mean, can you go anywhere on the planet, other than the Czech Republic, obviously now, because you're no longer welcome there. But generally,
Yes, there's a few issues that are unresolved. Should we just say that? Just
yeah, but
unresolved.
just we'll move
Very
on
enough.
quickly. Yeah.
I've worked in 30 countries from America to Saudi, from Finland down to Ethiopia. So have plane will travel, not my own. Things are going well, but not that well. And then I do a ton more virtually. I tell you what, COVID was bizarre. I found a whole new market. Dubai wanted to do only virtual for the whole duration of COVID. So very credible organizations were doing communication, presentation, negotiation, pitching, storytelling, writing for impact. We had such a laugh. My biggest challenge then, do you remember? It's all changed now, when people wouldn't turn their cameras on. It's
Yeah.
all changed. Now, but oh, I know I look odd, but I put my camera on. That only took 3 years.
Can you name drop any of these credible organizations? Obviously, you mentioned like obviously Prince Charles and Bob Geldof already. We're just, you're just kind of throwing it in, or is it a case of you're not allowed because of certain?
No, no, no. I mean, yeah, I've worked with a lot. I've worked, PwC, EY, Jaguar Land Rover, one of the best clients ever. I've worked for, you name it. I remember once with these care levers, I put on all the logos. They go, Matthew, you worked for everybody.
You sound like Gollum there from the Lord of the Rings,
A bit
Matthew.
creepy, too much, too much.
It's okay. I mean, interested just from my point of view, have you ever worked within aviation side or the public transport side? Has anybody out there kind of got in
I
touch?
can't name names, but I've done plenty in aviation. Public transport, no.
Okay.
No, I say automotive. Tons of automotive. Tons of
Right.
Czech, Slovakia was automotive central. France is also automotive central. So a lot of suppliers.
So come on, public transport. Let's get the numbers up and get in touch with Matthew. So where else, Matthew, can listeners get in touch with you? Are you on the LinkedIn's, the Facebooks, the
I'm on
Instagrams?
the LinkedIn. The only problem with being called Matthew Hill, Hill was the fifth most popular surname in the UK. But if you look up, I think it's Matthew Hill, corporate presentation trainer. And when you connect, add a note. I saw you on Dave's Wow 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 podcast. Then I'll
Wow,
give
wow,
you
wow, 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 podcast.
that last one's important. I'll give you 100% discount down to zero for our 15-minute chat.
Wonderful. Honestly, we say thanks so much to Matthew Hill for telling me on the Wellbeing Curriculum podcast. Once the podcast has been approved and released, I'll put all the links in that you can contact Matthew directly. So thanks so much, Matthew, for chatting with me today.
Nice one, Dave. Good luck with the show.
Thank you.